And then one day, decades later, 2016 to be exact, Stranger Things came along. And although it wasn't the first TV show or movie to take us back to the 80s, for me personally, it brought back a lot of those feelings unlike anything modern ever had before. Hey everyone, my name is Perry, and welcome back to the Cassette Phase. Well, we've reached the middle of October, and with the fifth and final season about a month and a half away, I figured it was time to talk about some Stranger Things. And if you're a fan of this channel and others like it, you're probably at least a little bit familiar with this Netflix series that's been around for almost a decade at this point, which is crazy. So we're going to talk about some of my favorite episodes and some of my favorite moments from the show. But beyond that, I want to talk to you all about how Stranger Things essentially reignited my own personal 80s nostalgia. And we'll spend some time over at the Ottoman doing some more Stranger Things merchandise show and tell. And we can't forget about today's time capsule, so we'll do that too. So whether you're a longtime fan of the show or just a casual observer, or maybe even someone who's never explored Hawkins and the Upside Down, you're likely going to find plenty of examples of 80s pop culture, and maybe even uncover some childhood memories of your own on today's video. Sound like fun to you? Come hang out. Okay everyone, welcome back to the Ottoman, and welcome to another great day here in the den. For today's background noise, we've got some Pac-Man playing on the old CRT. Can't see it too clearly, but that's that old Hanna-Barbera Pac-Man cartoon. Loved that show as a kid. Just a really, really fun cartoon. So I figured for today's time capsule, since we're talking about Stranger Things today, we're gonna do plenty of Stranger Things related show and tell here in a few minutes, but I figured why not, for old time's sake, take a look at a couple of VHS tapes for some movies that maybe inspired the show we're talking about today, or that the show is definitely paying homage to in many ways. And plus, you know, we haven't really done a cassette since we transitioned away from the cassette of the day, so I figured it'd be fun to do that today. So no surprise, we have to start off with E.T., and we've got both the clamshell and the slipcover versions here. And as cool as the clamshell is, cool artwork, cool to have. My favorite is always going to be this slipcover. This is the tape that, well, not this exact one, but this is the tape that, millions of people had in their homes back in the 80s when the release of this on VHS was such a big deal. It's got that green, tab on it. It's so well known for at this point. But, just classic art. You guys know I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. This is my favorite movie of all time, so it makes sense that I would like a show like Stranger Things because there's so many similarities. I mean, in that first season, who wasn't thinking that 11 was just meant to be kind of a similar, parallel to our pal E.T. here? Just so many similarities. What's left to say, though, about this masterpiece? It's probably at least the fourth or fifth time that we've talked about this VHS tape here on the channel. But there you have it. But let's move on to a couple of other movies that are also related to Stranger Things, starting with another one of my all-time favorite films, The Never-Ending Story. And again, we've got the slipcover and the clamshell, also with amazing artwork. Yeah, so if you'll recall the infamous scene in season 3 of Stranger Things, Dustin and Susie treat us to a musical number where they, for some reason, sing the theme song to The Never-Ending Story while the fate of the world hangs in the balance. We've talked about, and we're going to talk about, the cheesiness of some of our 80s movies that we love. It was on full display in that episode of Stranger Things, but you know what? I liked it. I thought it was kind of cool, but, again, one of my favorite movies of all time, so of course I'm going to like hearing them sing the theme song on Stranger Things. And then the last one for today, a movie that surprisingly I don't have the slipcover version of on VHS, but I do have the clamshell, and here we've got The Goonies. I mean, there are scenes and sections of Stranger Things that almost look, frame for frame, like something out of this movie. They even did a few posters a few years back that were like, not parodies, but I guess homages to the movie posters from things like The Goonies and Alien and Firestarter and The Gate, and they were all really cool. But what's not to love? Kids on bikes, plenty of adventure, treasure hunting, friendship, a little dash of romance, all in that great 80s style that we know and love so much. So yeah, I thought it might be fun to look at a few VHS tapes today for I guess what can be considered a throwback version of today's time capsule back to our cassette of the day days here on the channel. So that was fun. If you grew up in the 80s or the 90s, you likely remember a time when riding bikes after dark with your best friends felt like the biggest adventure in the world. When the woods behind your neighborhood could be the portal to another dimension. When sleepovers and walkie-talkies and pizza rolls were all you needed for a perfect night. And then one day, decades later, 2016 to be exact, Stranger Things came along. And although it wasn't the first TV show or movie to take us back to the 80s, for me personally, it brought back a lot of those feelings unlike anything modern ever had before. So it's a sci-fi horror show about monsters from the upside down. Of course it is. But more importantly, it's a love letter to an entire generation of pop culture. The Duffer Brothers managed to take all of those things that we loved, the Amblin spirit of E.T., the mystery of the Goonies, the suspense and tension of Alien, that synth music, those basement Dungeons and Dragons sessions, and remix all of it into something that somehow felt fresh. It was kind of like discovering a long-lost 80s movie that somebody had buried in a time capsule and then pulled it out, polished it up with some modern storytelling and visual effects, and then handed it back to us and said, hey, remember this feeling? And to me, that's the magic of Stranger Things. Now, it's obviously not a perfect show. There are several cheesy moments all throughout. But newsflash, a lot of those movies that we loved back in the 80s, they had their fair share of cheese as well. But beyond the Easter eggs and 80s references, which are awesome, by the way, it recreated what it felt like to be a kid back then. It reminded us what it felt like to be curious and scared and brave and awkward all at once, to believe in friendship, to have a crush on a cool girl, and to believe that there really is something supernatural hiding behind an arcade cabinet. And I've seen it in my own kids to a certain extent, but this show has resonated with today's youth. An entire generation of young people who didn't grow up in the 80s but kind of wish that they had, and I think that's awesome. So today, as I mentioned, I want to talk a little bit about what this show has meant to me personally, and how it kind of launched my love for all things 80s and nostalgic. Because it inspired this channel, honestly. And it reminded me that sometimes it's okay to go back into the upside down and pay a little visit to the inner child that keeps us young at heart. So, thinking back to 2016, my daughter was 5 years old. My son hadn't even come along yet. And I was working from home in a home office that predated the den here. And I've talked about this before briefly, but I have always been okay being the adult guy who displays pop culture items around his workspace. You know, I just think that it adds a little bit of fun and a little bit of humor to what could otherwise be just a mundane kind of workday. And back then, that meant a lot of Star Wars items, you know, a lot of superhero items. I had recently rediscovered comic books and was enjoying some of those adventures. I was obviously on board with the stuff that Disney had going on with Star Wars at the time. And there were still hints of nostalgia mixed in, of course. That feeling has never truly gone away from me completely, but it was definitely hiding in the background. I can remember my freshman year of college, living in the dorms, and me and my roommate downloading old 80s cartoon theme songs off of file sharing services like Napster and LimeWire and what was the other one? Oh, Kazaa. Anyone remember that one? But it was always kind of just a passing feeling. Like, hey, I remember that, and then moving on. And that's probably how most people process their nostalgia, honestly, but that's a topic for another day. But when Stranger Things came along, it opened up a whole new appreciation for that feeling that we describe so often here on the channel. It made me want to immediately go back and revisit E.T. and Stand By Me. You know, it made me wish that I had my old BMX bike back so that I could hop on it and cruise around the neighborhood without a care in the world. It was the first time that I can recall longing for a world without smartphones or even the internet. You know, kids being kids, living their lives, appreciating what they had. So yeah, the show itself brought on that nostalgia in a big way. But with that overall aesthetic and those costumes and those authentic set pieces, how could it not? And suddenly, I wanted to explore a lot of the 80s books and movies and TV shows that I may have missed out on as a kid. You know, I had never read any Stephen King. I hadn't gone back and spent any time with the X-Men since I was 10 years old. So I did, and I loved it. I had never even seen Aliens, believe it or not. And I had certainly never seen The Gate, at least not all the way through. It also made me want to go back and try Dig Dug again on the Nintendo, or track down a copy of Dragon's Lair. And I'll never forget the way they used music in that show. Of course, the songs we knew from actual artists back then, like Duran Duran and Cyndi Lauper, but even more impactfully, the score. You know, that glorious synth music that fit the vibe so perfectly. And seeking out that synth music led me down a rabbit hole that I have yet to climb out of to this day. You know, I read a thread somewhere that said, if you like the synth music found in Stranger Things, check out Synthwave and some acts like The Midnight. Well, the first Synthwave song that I ever actively listened to was Arcade Dreams by The Midnight. And I don't know, something about the melodies, the sounds, the frequencies, just injected my heart with that bittersweet nostalgia. Fast forward to today, and some of that synthwave music from acts like Gunship and All the Damn Vampires and the Motion Epic and FM 84 and countless others. Some of that music hits me in the nostalgic feels more so than the actual music that was released from the time period that they're paying homage to. Now, I mentioned the set pieces before. Well, it goes without saying that the show influenced my taste for interior design. I mean, look around. And I always felt comfortable and warm and kind of at peace in the houses of my grandparents. And I guess I never really had the motivation to try to recreate some of that within my own home, until I watched Stranger Things. Now, I've got braided oval rugs on the floor, and I'm sitting on a plaid couch, and I've got a console television or two, a phone hanging on the wall, cross-stitch art hanging up everywhere, and just so many other examples, too many to name. But if you go back and watch some of my room tour videos, chances are you're going to see some items that wouldn't look out of place at the Wheeler's house or in the middle of the buyer's living room. So all that to say, if Stranger Things had never come along, would there have been something else to unlock my nostalgia? Most likely. You know, I'm self-aware enough to know that it's always been there, and something else would have come along that would have brought it to the surface. But as we prepare for the end of the story, and no matter how it ends, will they stick the landing, or will it be more like Game of Thrones? Who knows? But either way, I'll always have an appreciation for the domino effect that this show has had on my life. So let's head back over to the Ottoman for a few minutes. I've got some more Stranger Things merchandise to show you that I think is awesome. All right, welcome back to the Ottoman again. And where I have over to my left here on the couch, literally a pile of Stranger Things related merchandise that I want to take you through quickly. So we're not going to spend too much time on each item, but just wanted to show you some stuff in keeping with the theme of today's video. So let's start off with a soda can. A few years back, they did a re-release of New Coke. And if you'll remember from the 80s when New Coke came out, it wasn't well received. But I think this was season 2 promotional from Stranger Things season 2, where they did these throwback Coke cans with the Stranger Things branding on them. Very cool. I mean, I wish they wouldn't have done the tall boy style. I wish they would have just given us like a standard, size can for a little bit more authentic look. And I also would have appreciated like the actual New Coke can. This looks like just a regular Coke can. I could be wrong. I could have that backwards in my head, but either way, very cool item, and I'm glad that I have it in the collection. That lives out in the garage most of the time. Let's see, next thing. Okay. I don't even remember what this is from, but I just know that it's cool. This little miniature CRT TV with the Stranger Things logo on it. I think that these were like blind boxes. Maybe Target, maybe Walmart did a few years ago. It came with like some stickers and like maybe like a little figure, like a little PVC figure inside, but that's not what I wanted it for. And this was probably like a little $5 item. I just wanted it for that TV, I think it's awesome. Okay. What do we have next? Let's go back to the food and beverage products here. So this is the recent promotion for the upcoming season. We've got kind of like a re-release packaging on the Gatorade bottle, as you'll see here. Now, again, they could have taken this the extra mile. It says 1987 limited edition, which is cool. Logo looks great. But could they have given us a glass bottle? Probably not. But that would have just absolutely taken this to the next level. Give us the glass bottle Gatorade that we would have actually drank out of back in 1987. For one, it would have straightened this label out and made the logo pop a little bit better. And two, just the experience. For whatever reason, to me, Gatorade tasted better out of a glass bottle. I don't know why. But you know what? I can't complain too much. And these had different characters. I got the Dustin one here. I appreciate what they're going for. And if nothing else, the logo. And if you'll notice that the hat that I've been wearing in the video today also has this on it. That was another item that I grabbed. Target right now is like the headquarters for Stranger Things merchandise. And then there's another bottle. I guess this is the upside down version, which is very cool. Limited edition Stranger Things Gatorade Thirst Quencher. Upside down citrus cooler. And these are like 2 for $3, I think, on sale. So I grabbed a few, so I'll be able to drink some of these, and then I'll keep a couple of bottles stashed away just to have for the future. What do we have next? Yeah, let's keep going with the grocery products from this year. You know, from the recent trips to the grocery store. Here we've got Demogorgon Crunch cereal. I took the bag of cereal out. The kids have actually been eating this, and I had a bowl of it too. It wasn't bad, but I mean, come on, Demogorgon Crunch, and it is syrup flavored cereal. Like the little cereal pieces taste like maple syrup, which is just okay. But then you got some cool little marshmallows here. And along with this, they also did like a throwback Fruit Loops and a throwback Frosted Flakes box, which I'll eventually get those too. One Last Adventure. Look at that artwork. So cool. Yeah, I'll eventually grab those too, but you know, I don't see those going away anytime soon. I'm sure they'll be available, maybe even hit clearance. But yeah, it's like a throwback Frosted Flakes box where Tony the Tiger is wearing like an upside down shirt or like a Hawkins shirt or something like that. And then there's a Fruit Loop one with a similar setup. You know, you're going out last season of one of the biggest, most successful shows that Netflix has ever had. One of the most successful streaming shows on any platform, I think. You got to go out with a full-fledged marketing blitz. And I'm loving every bit of it. We'll quickly look at the Gushers that came out. Nothing too exciting there. They're just Gushers with, you know, some Stranger Things characters on the packaging. There were some cool stickers inside. You know, my wife took one and I took another one and put it on the laptop. This is the one that I got right here. This pink one. Love that. You know, and then the kids got some Gushers out of the deal. Might as well finish out the grocery products while I'm on it. So here we've got a Doritos bag with the old Doritos logo on it, which I love. Some added Stranger Things branding. Chip in for Hawkins. And these are collisions, so there's two different flavors in the bag. Stranger Pizza, which is basically just pizza flavored Doritos, and then Cool Ranch, which we all know, been around for years and years. Again, you got some branding, some characters. Grab your favorite Doritos and dial into 1987 for one last strange adventure. I do need to call this number and just see what happens. I'll probably do that tonight. But yeah, love the retro, you know, look at that packaging. And then the last one I've already shown you. We do have some new subscribers here on the channel, so I'll show it again briefly. Speaking of which, I got like a 12 to 15 subscriber bump because Jason over at the New 80s Revolution called my channel out again. So much appreciated, sir. You don't have to do that, but I always appreciate it when you do. Yes, I am still stuck at 600 subs, but I'm still having fun doing this. Like I told you, I'm going to keep doing it as long as it's fun, even though lately it hasn't been as frequent. That has nothing to do with the channel. That has more to do with just work and life being super busy. But, okay. What do we have next? This is a little dusty, so I apologize because it was out in the garage. So this is a calendar from 2019. So this would have been, this is around the season 2 time. Looks kind of like a Trapper Keeper. This right here is my favorite Stranger Things art. I have this image as my background on my iPad. You know, it scrolls through as one of the backgrounds on my laptop and on my phone. I just think it's so epic. And I think it captures the feel of the series perfectly. So let's quickly go through some of the art. See if I can remember if any of this was really good. Yeah, just Will's drawing there of the Mind Flayer Shadow Monster. Got some dice there. Oh, I skipped it. Hold on. Okay, so January. I like that they've kept the Trapper Keeper theme going. That's pretty cool. Shot of the party there. Here we get the introduction of Mad Max, who was one of my favorite characters. Reminds me a lot of my best friend across the street from my house as a kid. She had red hair. She liked to skateboard. Just a really good pal from childhood, and that's who Max kind of reminds me of. March. Yeah, Will. It's amazing how much these kids have grown up. I feel like we've watched them grow up, you know? 11. Okay, so I remember this scene in the show was amazing because the music was that real dark sounding Upside Down song that they play throughout some of the more scary moments throughout the series. I love it. It's one of the best parts of the whole soundtrack. So that's playing as Hopper is underground trying to follow these vines, and the camera like starts to tilt, you know, and takes him through the Upside Down, like it actually rotates. Just a really cool and memorable scene. Speaking of memorable scenes, for anyone who has not watched the show and is considering doing so, I always recommend that you, obviously you're going to start at season 1, which a lot of people think season 1's the best. You know, they didn't have the huge budget yet. I don't think they weren't as huge and famous as they are now. But that season 1, episode 3, I think it's called Holly Jolly. Stick with the show until that moment. It's the end of that 3rd episode. You know, the Christmas lights are going crazy. I'm not going to spoil anything in case there is somebody watching that hasn't seen it, but the music's incredible. There's all kinds of stuff going on. Tell me that you watched season 1, episode 3 through the end and that you're not interested in what happens next. That's where I was hooked, and that's where I always tell people. Just get to that point and see what you think of the show. If you're not enjoying it and you don't care, then you could probably stop. But chances are you're gonna want to keep going. Love this shot of them as Ghostbusters. Oh man, season 2 was awesome. You know, my kids and I always joke around. You know, nobody wants to be Winston, man. You got that great prom scene with the Cyndi Lauper music and the Police music playing, and just great, you know, great stuff. What is it? Was it the Yule Ball? Is that what it's called, or am I thinking of Harry Potter? I'm getting those two mixed up. It's some kind of Christmas, like winter themed dance, I'm pretty sure. So that's basically it. I probably missed a couple trying to turn the pages with one hand, but yeah, just a cool calendar. I have it out in the garage, like I said, hanging up. I'll flip it through to some of my favorite pictures once in a while. Sticking with that theme, we've got that image again here on a spiral notebook. Now apparently they're doing an actual Trapper Keeper, or they already did. I haven't seen it yet, but if I do see it, I'll probably pick it up. I've got a couple of the re-release Trapper Keepers, and they're just so cool. Just such a throwback, and if there's a Stranger Things themed one out there, I'm probably going to go after it. Okay, winding down here. I'm going to finish with those two. So before we do that, let's take a quick look at this book here. Stranger Things Hawkins Horrors, a collection of terrifying tales. Now, I haven't read any of these yet. I'm pretty sure this is like YA, you know, young adult, or even earlier. This could be like real, you know, meant for real young kids. But I just thought the cover was so cool. It's got a, you know, it's a hardback, great artwork on it. And, you know, these will probably go quick. So if I'm sitting around getting ready for Halloween and I want to read a quick little spooky story, apparently I've got a few here to choose from. Again, awesome artwork though. It's kind of what drew me in. There's been several Stranger Things books. I've only read one of them. I read the story about Max and Billy before they came to Hawkins. It was, again, young adult, so it was a little bit hard to get through in spots, but overall, it was a cool story. And then last but not least, and I've shown these before on the channel, but I'm going to go through them again quickly here because they're just too perfect. The season 1 and 2 box sets, you know, Blu-ray, DVD box sets that are meant to look like VHS tapes. are just amazing. And both of these, and I only have season 1 and 2, I don't know if they did them beyond that. I got both of these on clearance. You know, Target had a huge end cap of them, like marked down to $3. And I wish I would have grabbed more, because now I think they go for $25, $30, you know, on the secondhand market. But there it is, a love letter to 80s classics that captivated a generation. I promise I didn't steal that. Maybe I did some subconsciously. And I'm not going to open this one up. It's a little bit hard to get into with one hand, but you can see the details. Just awesome, awesome stuff. And then finishing it out, we've got season 2. This one they went more for like the clamshell look. The video rental. Look, it's got the genre. It's a new release. Again, that amazing artwork. And then you've even got a Hawkins video store. Friends Rewind. Oh my goodness, I love it. Season 2 might be my favorite, like front to back. I don't know, it's tough. Season 4 had some really great like horror elements, and the whole thing with running up that hill and Max, that's all just classic, you know, great stuff. But season 2 was when I was like, okay, this is next level stuff for me. I cannot wait for the next season. You had all the Halloween stuff. And there's some like meant to be like Polaroid pictures in here. I'm not going to dig those out today, but just some of the other details here, looking like an actual VHS tape. And then behind it, you've got the Blu-rays on top, and then behind that, the DVDs, which I use more frequently because I'll put those in full frame and watch them on that TV right there. And it's just like that's how it was meant to be seen. I don't know. It looks great in, you know, full HD on the big screen as well, but it feels more authentic on the little screen. So there we have it. And there we are. So I hope that you all enjoyed my nostalgic ramblings today about Stranger Things. And if you did, consider subscribing if you're new around here. Also, don't forget to like the video, but only if you actually liked the video. But for now, and as always, relax. Enjoy life and be kind. We'll see you in the next one.